everybody, and welcome back to the Inspire Studio for episode 5 of Above the Ring. My name's Greg, I've got Jade and Guy with me again, and I must say I do feel much more comfortable being in this seat without having tape over my mouth or somebody else taking over. No, look, we're excited to be back here in the studio, bringing you another great episode of Above the Ring, where we discuss a few controversial things. The first thing we're going to go into is the Suncorp starting on the weekend. Now, for us netball heads in Australia, we've been longing for this competition to get going, and it did so on the weekend, but it also brought with it the Super Shot. And we have avoided, I know we've spoken about this in the studio behind closed doors, but we've avoided having an opinion on it until today. We thought we would bring our opinion on it, and just maybe some of the impacts that we think it may have on netball in a greater sense. So, your opinion. Are you for it, against it, or in the middle?
Look, I'm probably a little bit on the middle, but I'm probably a little bit of a traditionalist, which is probably a bit shocking, like a male netballer being a traditionalist. But I'm open-minded. I wasn't a super fan of it on the weekend. I just didn't feel like it had the outcomes of what maybe they put it in there for. And it's hard because it's round one, and not only was the implementation or the implication of it a bit messy, but like general court was also pretty messy, being round one, limited match play, limited time being able to actually practice it within a match play scenario. So I'll give it another couple of weeks before I make a definite answer on it. But I just feel like it might have some longer term implications on the league, in terms of we have quite a few international athletes that play in this league. If I was the England national coach or the Jamaican national coach, would I want my athletes playing in a league that doesn't represent international netball? Maybe not, because I just feel like with all the other additional rules that are in Suncorp, it's not the same international netball, and is it not setting up those athletes for success at a World Champs or Com Games or Test netball. So the other side to that, though, is it does give lots of opportunities for young, up-and-coming Aussie athletes to be able to get out there and show what they're capable of. So, again, this is where it's a bit like I am on the fence with it, because there's definitely pros to it. There's also, I feel like, some negatives as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah,
and you mentioned the international players coming in. Is the competition setting us up for Australian international play as well? You know, like, are our athletes that are competing in the Diamonds team, are they being set up for success, or are they being set up for failure? Because from where I sit, I sit 100% in the middle. I don't think it's either going to be positive or negative at this stage, but the one thing that I think it's going to impact is the psychological mindset of goal shooters and goal attacks. Because as a goaler, the one thing that you need to focus on is being 100% in the mindset of shooting a goal in, so that you can execute your technique the right way under pressure. Now, all the Super Shot does, from what I saw, was create indecision in the goaler's mind. Are they now looking straight at the post and trying to execute a steady routine so that they can be accurate on their shot, or are they worrying about receiving a pass back from the goal shooter into the Super Shot zone? Are they worrying about refeeding, or are they tentatively looking at that Super Shot? I just think there's going to be an impact on the athlete's mindset from a psychological point of view, because it creates all these other questions. And if you then link it back into what you were saying, all of a sudden when they go into the international competition, how well are they going to be able to adjust back into that traditional form after the hype that's been around the Super Netball competition? They had a really quick time frame pre-competition to get their headspace around that Super Shot zone, and they will have played in it. And then if international competition does get up in the new year, certainly maybe not this year, but in the new year, how well can they flick back to that traditional game? So that's where I stand. I'm more around the athlete welfare, and hoping that they can cope with the change, because the pressure at international level, you know, I know we've had the luck to be able to play at international level. It's intense, and you want to simplify it as much as possible for athletes. I just think this creates a little bit of inclusion to, adding stress. It was exciting though to see some of those super shots being made.
I loved it. I'm not going to sit on the fence. I actually really enjoyed watching the games on the weekend, and I can definitely appreciate what Guy and Greg are saying. I felt that it did bring a really new dynamic to the game, and rather than thinking it will potentially impact the players negatively, I just think it forces them to be a bit more thinking out there and, you know, come up with different strategies and applying different skills at the right time. So, look, the overall games on the weekend, I wouldn't say were pretty, like you mentioned, Guy. I think you could definitely see there was some rusty players out there, and took a while for some connections to be made out on court. But if I think about the super shot specifically, I really enjoyed watching the change up. And if the super shot was to be played for the entire game, so 15-minute quarters, and it was there the whole time, I'm not sure how I would feel about that. But because it's just that last 5 minutes, you know, the first 10 minutes is normal netball. It's normal netball. So it's not that they've strayed away from the game 100% of the time. It's just that last 5 minutes of the quarter, which makes it really interesting. And we saw a massive margin in one of the games that got brought back in because of that super shot. And I really enjoyed watching that happen. So it makes the game a bit more exciting, and the ability for teams to actually rein back in a margin, which may not happen in the normal game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. But I am for it at the moment. So we'll see what happens.
What about though, just on that, what about when you look at momentum within a game, and as coaches we measure the positive and the negative momentum from a player's point of view, if they're say 10 or 12 goals down because of 3 or 4 super shots, where do you think their mindset's going to go late in the game? Are they going to think, oh, we're too far away from this to be able to peg it back? Or is it going to give them motivation to potentially take some of those super shots and the risk-reward factor? Do you think that's going to impact them?
But I mean, look, mentally players are challenged in the normal game as well. So for me, I feel like it brings a different dynamic, as I mentioned, and players have to try and create momentum, and whether that's by using the 2-point shot late in the quarter to try and bring back a lead. I feel like that's a really positive thing. And even in the normal game of netball, there's still momentum swings. These are bigger momentum swings at times, but I think the overarching concept behind it is it's just going to challenge players to be positive and to be out there and think, yes, we can bring back this lead, whether it's 16 goals in this type of competition or it's 8 goals in the normal type of netball. You know, an 8-goal margin versus a 16-goal margin is the same when you compare the two styles or the two types of play. So yeah, but I think, you know, there's definitely lots of opinions, and it will be really interesting to see what happens as the season unfolds.
Well, enough of the opinions.
Yes.
What do we know
talk
about
it all day.
What do we know about the stats from the weekend? I know you went through them earlier, so bring some light to
Look,
that.
I was just a little bit interested to see what the stats were around, you know, maybe the percentages of the super shot, because technically it's not really a long bomb.
It's a mid-range shot.
I actually would have preferred if it had been a fast 5 kind of zone for the 2 points, so it was actually a long bomb, and there's more risk for reward. Because I'll get back to the stats in a second, but I just, on your point, Jade, around the momentum building, I would really hate to see a team that's played 20 minutes of netball and be able to win a game compared to a team that has played consistent netball for longer, but a team has played 3 or 4 really good 5-minute bursts and been lucky enough to win a game of netball. I just would hate that to go down that road. But the stats were from the weekend, they shot at about 62% from that mid-range shot. Some were more successful than others, and some were more successful from the mid to long range than what they were from closer range. Particularly some of the junior ones that just kind of came on and had no fear to shoot that. So that was really exciting to see as well. But
what about the result though? Like, did it impact the result? What would the results have looked like if they took the super shot out?
And look, I think it's very interesting in different ways. Obviously, if you're more successful in the 2-point zone, then it changes the end result. But for example, the Lightning and Firebirds game, obviously that result would have been a lot closer had Lightning not been able to get all those points through Steph Wood. Whereas a game like the Giants and the Swifts game, which was a close 2-point game in the end, if there weren't 2-point games, then the Swifts would have won that by a bigger margin. So it will just be interesting to see how it plays out and whether that affects the ladder with percentages and for and against and all that sort of stuff as well throughout the year. So I know there's no bonus points this year in terms of they've taken that aside, but now they've added this next layer. So it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and that's why I'm still open-minded, but I'm skeptical.
All right, so let's close this loop. Let's keep it in perspective, I guess, is the main message for fans and certainly for the athletes and coaches. That I'm sure they know what they're doing up at that top level. But for fans, keep it in perspective. It's an adjustment phase, and the competition's 1 week in. So let's revisit this maybe in a few weeks and see whether the stats have changed, and let's see whether it's had a greater impact on the overall play, and maybe some of the things that the three of us have mentioned in terms of our individual opinions. Moving on, we had a great email come through during the week from Sandra, who's a Victorian coach, and she, I think she was referencing pre-COVID, because she was about to take on a brand new team in that under 11 space. And all she'd said was, I'm a parent, I've been thrown into a role, where do I start? And I'm going to throw it to you to answer this one, because I think, you've got some really important points for Sandra.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to consider looking at doing is the Foundation Coaching online course. So that's that first level of accreditation for netball coaches, and it's just a great starting point to get your head around, I guess, some of the key roles that you hold as a coach of a netball team, and it will look at some of the skills and just how you can structure your trainings and things like that. So definitely a great starting point. The next thing I'd look at doing is jumping on to our YouTube channel, because we actually did deliver a hints and tips session around under 11 teams, and we delve into some of the nitty gritty when it comes to that particular age group, how to engage them, how to communicate with that group, knowing that they're young and that the attention spans are a little bit different to, say, a senior athlete, but also just the structure of trainings and the key skills to be delivering for that particular age group. So that's the next part that I would do. And look, I think just mapping out how is that season going to look for you. So rather than going week to week and I guess being a little bit reactive and just going off how they're playing in their games, I think just trying to set a plan for yourself so that you're not covering 50 million different things at training, but really trying to hone in on what you think are the key skills that you want to cover and be really trying to improve for your playing group. So yeah, they're, I guess, the main points, I think, when first starting out, and good on you, I should say, as well, for first putting your hand up, because we know there are a lot of people out there that sometimes haven't had a lot of experience with netball, or they're just a mum or dad. So really, really great job for putting your hand up. And yeah, there are resources out there from us, and obviously the coaching accreditations as well, that will help you get going. So yeah,
some good points. And I think, when we talk to parents that fall into those roles, often it's the anxiety of not knowing what to cover. So by trying to implement a little bit of structure into your season, it'll help keep you on track, but also take away some of that natural anxiety where you might get to the end of the season and go, oh no, I didn't enjoy it. You might get to the end of the season and think, you know what, I'm going to do this again next year because I found it quite rewarding. So we encourage you to stick with it. obviously we have to wait till restrictions here in Melbourne lift a little bit, so it might be some time until you actually get to do that, but the benefit of that is you have lots of planning time. So good luck with it, and thanks again for writing in and wanting our advice on that.
And we'll put a link to the hints and tips session in the comments below.
Yeah, good point. That's it for today, episode 5. Done. So until next episode, if you're in Melbourne, stay safe, stay home. If you are able to get out in other states and play netball, we hope you enjoy it. Don't take it for granted, because obviously we're stuck here and not really able to do anything netball-wise. But have a great week, and we hope to see you soon.
Bye.
See
See
ya.
you.